So, Ghost Hunter 88 wants a review of the SM610. I had a bit of a search on the net, and there is a few reviews, a few people's reviews, but I guess a lot of them are from when they first came out. And yeah, how about I give you one that's 40,000 k's old. I bought this bike second hand with 3,000 kilometers on the clock. It's 2006 model. I bought it in 2007, and so I've had it for 5 years. So here we have the Husqvarna 2006 SM610. First things first, it's not a 610, it's 576 cc's. It's got a 98 by 76 mil bore, and it's basically a long stroke lazy motor. That's how these things are built, to try and get a bit more longevity out of them. Yes, that's the same one. I've got 40,000 k's on this one, but it has done one rebuild, and partially my own fault. By the book, you're supposed to change the cam chain every 10,000. I changed the cam chain at about 15 or 16,000, but I didn't change the cam chain tensioner, and it appears that that's actually what failed at about 20,000. Cam chain tensioner failed, relaxed, and let the cam chain jump a couple of teeth, and the valves came in contact with the piston, which buggered it. So anyway, it's since been rebuilt. I paid 600 Australian dollars for an entire new bore and piston kit from the US, and yeah, went back together quite easily. So I guess I was going to talk about a few things that I think about this bike. I haven't really, it's pretty much stock. I've done the jetting kit, JD jetting kits, and I've gotten well, it's not an aftermarket exhaust, it's a custom exhaust. Yeah, so I was trying to get that undertail look, but works alright. Looks okay at first glance, but in hindsight I probably would have just gone for a aftermarket exhaust. So yeah, a couple of things. If you did buy one of these, the must-dos are a jetting kit and exhaust. They are really a bit of a dog without those things, and I think a lot of it's to do with emissions controls of various countries. And yeah, so I take this thing on the go-kart track occasionally, which is a bit of fun. Play with some of the 450cc guys. And it does alright. It's not as quick around the corners as the 450s. In fact, it's not as quick on the straight lines as a lot of these guys' 450s. Of course, they're hooking around with larger diameter pistons and shorter stroke. The 450s and 500s, and gives them a much racier engine. So yeah, it gives them better acceleration off the line, and they, of course, they don't have the weight. This thing's 140 kilos. A lot of the modern smaller bikes, you want to be looking around 120, 110 or less kilos. I mean, that's the aim. I think the Husqvarna 570 is around the 120 odd kilo mark. Yeah, so the Aprilia 550 SXV, SVX, SXV 550 is around that mark too. So I've put on a few of my own things here. We've got I've just bought a bit of made up. You can buy kits of these, of course. Axial Sliders. I've made up my own ones. A bit of Delron rod with just a bit of stainless 12mm rod through the middle and a nut. And yeah, I just bored out the middle of this myself and put them together, and yeah, works like a treat. And basically exactly the same thing on the back. These bikes do have a hollow axle, so this mod is extremely easy to do. I've also made up my own catch can. There's hundreds of aftermarket cans now on the market, so yeah, in hindsight I'd just buy one of those too. But this one does the job, so if we do fall over on the go-kart track, all the fluids that overflow from the carburetor actually flow into the catch can and not onto the track. So that's the idea of that. Everything else is pretty much standard. I put on some bark busters. They some people like them, some don't. Some think that when you go over the handlebars you'll break your wrists, but otherwise, you know, I think they're generally decent in the bush to protect your hands. Other than that, this thing is, like I say, fairly standard. Brembo brakes come standard with braided lines. I mean, they are awesome brakes. So Monster, would I say get one? Well, it depends what you're after. I mean, I bought this thing because I do a lot of kilometres, and I wanted to do kilometres without high maintenance, and it basically does that. It suits its purpose. But if you're just going to be running around town, I think you're better off probably getting something smaller and lighter with just as much horsepower. So the new Husky SMR, is it SMR? SM610. I think that's probably a good choice. You know, they're getting 50 odd horsepower out of those. This has got about, well, this is meant to have 50 horsepower at the motor. I've had a dyno at about 42 or 43 horsepower. It's nothing too exciting. Yeah, so I'd say similar horsepower to the 511, but you know, the 511's what, 30 kilos lighter. You're looking at I don't know what they are, 118 kilos or something. Yeah, 140 kilos of this does make it a fairly hefty bike to handle around the traps. If you're going out in the bush, you really want something lighter. One thing that doesn't work on these bikes is the original dash, and you know, I've got the Vapor on here, and it's been really good. The original dash, yeah, the numbers all crapped out. Like, in fact, when I bought it at 3,000 Ks, some of the numbers had crapped out, and by the time I got onto Vapor, most of the numbers were unreadable, and it's basically made it a pointless dash. However, I don't have a fuel light on here, so I need to check the fuel tank to work out when I'm going to run out. There is no reserve tap because there's a light on the dash, supposedly. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's a capable bike, and if that's what you want to do some kilometres and cruise around, it's quite comfortable and cruises along at, you know, 100 kilometres an hour, 60 miles an hour, you know, without a problem. I think the stock bike has a top speed of about 160 k's. I've put a few tooth. What have I got now? 1642, which, you know, it tops out about 180 or something, and that's, you know, plenty fast enough. I mean, I bought this instead of a sports bike. Well, I had sports bikes, but you know, I moved to the motard to try and sort of curb that high speed and have a bit more fun at normal speeds, and then not being scared of the dirt. There's also the new 630, the new Husqvarna SM610, which I've heard mixed reviews about. I think it has much of the same problems as this bike had when it was first released, and that was everyone went, "Holy crap, it's gutless." And I mean, it is compared to a race bike version with the smaller, racier engines. But yeah, I mean, it what depends what you need it for, you know. It's certainly enough fun to be had. Does the job, but if you can handle some more maintenance, I would go for one of the more racy bikes for sure. Unless you're anti-KTM, I think I mean, I bought this before the 690 SMC was available, but from all the stats that I've looked at, you know, you've got an extra 120 cc's on there, and about an extra, you know, 15 horsepower or so. I think they're about 66 horsepower, or claimed horsepower, compared to the 50 of this. And yeah, they're a similar weight, so if you don't mind the weight of this type of bike, the 690 SMC is probably another really good one to look at. So anyone considering getting any type of motard, you know, I'd really recommend that you go and test ride as many as you can, and really make up your mind from there. You know, the longer the test ride you can get, the better. Your best option really is to find someone that owns one that will let you take one for a ride, because out of the box they are renowned for being real pigs. And I think that's, you know, the same with most motards. You know, change the pipe and rejet them for sure, no question. So, you know, if you're going to buy one, make sure you haven't spent your entire budget on one either. You're going to want to keep enough money to you know, get a pipe and a jet kit, and build that into your price, unless you're getting a second-hand one which has had it already done. That's the other option, of course. Speed humps? What speed humps?